Good afternoon, everybody. It's the Cryptid Huntress. I'm Jessica Jones. Thank you guys so much for being here today. What a beautiful Monday. It is perfect weather outside here in Georgia today. And that's quite a change because it is super bipolar lately. We're either getting ice and snow or we need our shorts and our tank tops on. So it's nice to have a beautiful day. The kids are out of school for winter break. So I will not be getting a whole lot done this week, but I will be here with you guys. And I can't wait. I've already got some great shows lined up for us this week, and this show is one of them. And I do have our very good friend, Dr. Dennis Carroll, here in the studio today. We're going to be covering a little voodoo magic today, but actually, the focus is half human beast of the bayou. And down in Louisiana, we have the rougarou. We have the Honey Island swamp monster. We also have something called the Grunch. And it's not the Grinch, but it's the Grunch. And the descriptions of this thing kind of remind me of the Jersey Devil because there's so many different descriptions of it. But this is so fascinating. I decided yesterday, late last night, I was like, I'm doing a show on the Grunch today. And its ties to the Voodoo Queen herself, Marie Laveau. So, you guys, of course, I had to bring on Dennis Carroll for this. Dennis is my resident werewolf and our voodoo expert over here. And so the stories are wild, y'all. We're going to go down another rabbit hole today. I hope you guys got the popcorn. And yeah, I want to give a huge birthday shout out today to our good friend Long Island Bigfoot Mike. I was just messaging with him earlier today. Today is his birthday. So happy birthday to Mike, LIB. I hope you have the best day ever. And I think he may have his kids home for winter break too. These kids have a lot of breaks, y'all. Have y'all noticed I'm always talking about how my son's here? My son's always home. What? I don't remember having this many breaks when I was in school. I just don't. Maybe I was back in school way back when, in the old days, when we had to walk to school in the snow, up hills both ways, just like my dad. So anyways, happy birthday to Mike. Hope you have a great day and enjoy your day. Okay. And come back and co-host with me soon. Okay. All right. Well, if you guys would like to follow along with all of my shows and check out whatever I've got going on, go to thecryptidhuntress.com. That is where you can find all of the archives of my shows and the events that I'm going to be at. And I was just talking to Dr. John Stamey this morning. He's got another festival coming up. We may be covering some, or I'm going to say he invited me to be a part of it. Some lake monsters. He may be doing a festival on a very famous lake monster out of Georgia, down in South Georgia. We'll keep you posted on that. Okay, that's going to be really fun. But in the meanwhile, we do have the Georgia Bigfoot Conference coming up. That is going to be on March the 22nd and down or up in Demarest, Georgia. It's up for me. I'm down here in middle Georgia. The 2025 Georgia Bigfoot Conference. I'm their keynote speaker this year. And so you guys, that's my picture right there on the top. That's me. That's my profile sideline. I hope you guys will come see me there. And it's going to be a great time. We have so many great speakers that are going to be at that. And the list just keeps growing every day. So y'all come see me at that. Also, I do have a Patreon and I have a Etsy shop. All that information is on the ticker down here if you guys would like to support my work. And I do believe my Etsy shop's on sale. If it's not still on sale, I'm going to put it back on sale today for you guys if anybody's interested. And I do have a couple of new items to put in there. And I'm going to be working on that today. Okay. Well, let's get to our show today. Because I got Dr. Dennis Carroll here. It's always a good time when Dennis is here. It's fascinating, these conversations he and I have, especially when it comes to things like the Voodoo Queen, Marie Laveau. I've never talked about her on the show, I don't think. I don't remember ever bringing her up. However, she has been my inspiration for at least 2 of my Halloweens over the past, I'm going to say 20 years. Gosh, I'm getting old. I think I have actually dressed up like her for Halloween twice. I was just thinking about that today when I was getting ready. I'm like, wow, maybe I do have some sort of a connection to Miss Marie Laveau. I don't know. So I don't know. We're going to talk about her today. Also, real quick, I went to the mailbox yesterday and I got my 2025 Bigfoot Believers and Other Creatures calendar. Thank you to Daryl Denton and to everybody who voted for me. Part of Miss June, y'all please go get your calendars. Okay, this is awesome. It is awesome. And I want to thank everybody who voted for me to be one of the top 12 female Bigfoot researchers at Bigfoot Believers and Other Creatures. This is a great calendar. I may be getting these for everybody for Christmas this year. Oh, actually, that'd be too late because then the year would be over, right? Can't do that. Okay. But anyways, y'all go get your copy. Go to send Daryl Denton a message on Facebook, and you guys can get your calendars too. All right, y'all. Let's get to the show today, shall we? Okay. So we are going to be exploring the half human, half beast of the Bayou. And for people who are not from America, who don't know what the Bayou is, I guess it's the swamp down in Louisiana. Okay. And we're going to be specifically talking about the Grunch and the Voodoo Queen herself, Marie Laveau. Now, Creole and Voodoo influences certainly gave Louisiana some character. Conjured creatures are said to run rampant throughout the Bayou, and New Orleans has had its share of werewolves and vampires. One of the most unique and interesting creatures of local legend and lore is the Grunch. The Grunch is a deadly beast, which has been compared to a Goatman or a blood-sucking chupacabra. Well, it could be cannibalistic little Goatmen too. But they've been cited for over a century. Okay, and some say that they've actually resorted to cannibalism as a result of the deal that they made with the devil. Sightings of the Grunch date back past the 1800s, and there was a resurgence of their sightings at the time of Hurricane Katrina. Okay, and that's something that Dennis and I have actually talked about with the Reptilians. I think Barry might have been on the show with us for that. We talked about the Reptilian sightings, and Dennis told us that really wild story about, I don't know if we got too into detail about it, but about the rescue crews going from house to house, and they went into one house, and there looked like a zombie was tied to the wall. Still alive. Actually dead alive. So we might be talking about that today a little bit as well. But some rumors suggest that this Grunch is the child of Marie Laveau, and other people say that it's actually was a child that she was babysitting or watching after, and she didn't. It was deformed, and she did not want it to reproduce, so she castrated it, and the Grunch was made from that product of the castration. I know it's weird. We only talk about the weird stuff here on this channel. Okay, we're going to get real deep into the weird today. So this takes us down the path of conjuring cryptids. Also, we're going to dive into what this is, what Dr. Dennis Carroll believes this is, and we may be talking about the Rougarou and more today. Dr. Dennis Carroll has a long history of paranormal research behind him. He's an author. He has decades of experience in the supernatural, paranormal, the occult, even voodoo, black magic. He knows all about it. And cryptids, UFOs, you name it. Please help me welcome to the show our good friend, Dr. Dennis Carroll. Hey, Dennis.
Good afternoon. I've got my holy water just in case we run into heavy voodoo resistance here. Okay.
I have on my amulet too. Okay, we've got our protection on today, double protection, triple, because what we are talking about today could get kind of dark, right, Dennis? Just a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I was telling somebody the other day, I love the South, the southern part of the United States, because it is absolutely the most haunted region in the world, just about, okay? And the deeper south you go, like into the Bayou country, it gets even heavier, definitely. But you've got a lot of the voodoo stuff that goes on down there. You've got a lot of that contributing to the culture. I'd say immensely amount of that, an immense amount. And I think without a doubt, black magic and all that conjures up stuff like this, and it fosters this stuff and brings it into our reality.
It does. Well, we have very famous voodoo practitioners down in New Orleans as well. And one of them, I think the most prominent that I've ever heard of, is the voodoo queen herself, Miss Marie Laveau. And I'm pretty sure you were familiar with her, Dennis, right? And I would assume a lot of people came from far and wide to, work with her or have her do spells. Or I think she was actually an herbalist, is how she's described. Um, much like a lot of women, I'm going to say women, but men too, of course, who were
Well,
considered to be witches, right?
once upon a time, if you were especially living in New Orleans or anywhere in the Bayou country and you had a problem, like maybe a lawsuit or a love entanglement or whatever the situation might be, you could go to Marie Laveau and get it taken care of. She was a very wide-ranging practitioner of the voodoo arts, supposedly, and to me, she's a fascinating character. I've done a lot of research on Marie Laveau, and she is the perfect epitome of a voodoo queen, no doubt about it. When you say voodoo queen, that's what I think of. I think of her.
Well, I couldn't even believe it when I was getting ready today. I started thinking about at least two times in my life I have actually dressed up like Marie Laveau for Halloween, and I don't think that I realized who I was dressing up like. Okay, and it's interesting. I might have had some sort of connection and not even known it, Dennis.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories that surround her, and of course, if you go to her tomb in New Orleans today and make a little cross on there with some a rock or some salt or whatever you do it with, you're supposed to get good luck from that. By the way, she is a fascinating character, and the fact is that not only was she integral to the high social part of New Orleans, but she went out into the locality as well. The more impoverished people knew about her. Her reign was far-reaching, put it that way, into a lot of different areas. And her children, supposedly, her daughter and all that, took over for her after supposedly her death. And there are some that say Marie Laveau is not dead; that she still lives on to this day, in different her bodies that she was able to inhabit. In other words, her spirit supposedly lives on in certain bodies. That she is still the voodoo queen of New Orleans.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I have a picture of me actually from when I was in my, I'm going to say like late 20s, early 30s, I guess. I actually look a lot like that right there. I had my snake around my neck and my hair. I had everything. Yeah, I was channeling her, I believe, back then, to harness her energy for that Halloween costume, I guess. I don't know. But that's wild. I'll try to dig up those pictures today and see if I can't find those. But yeah, it's absolutely possible she could be an immortal, right, Dennis? Like, I'm not calling her like vampiric, but like an immortal to be able to jump bodies.
Well, supposedly her magic was such that she was able to do these things. There's a lot of freaky stuff that goes on in voodoo, okay? And we're going to cover some of that today because it is fascinating stuff. I mean, it's got a lot to do with necromancy, bringing back the dead. You remember I told you about that story of the dead body they found in the house that was during Katrina. They were going from house to house and they found this dead body hanging on a wall in there with chains on it. And I mean, it was dead. I mean, this was not, just a body. You could tell it was gone. Put it that way. It was decaying to a certain degree. And yet it raised its head up and laughed at them.
Oh my gosh.
That is a bad situation to think about. But that is the power, supposedly, of this dark voodoo type stuff that they're able to do. It would not surprise me at all that Marie Laveau is not still living on in somebody else's body. Definitely, without a doubt.
Do you think that Marie Laveau would have been able to do stuff like that too, like I mean, obviously she could put spells on people and things like that, but what is that called? Necromancy, I guess, when you, raising the dead or working with the dead. I mean, because that's kind of what the voodoo religion is, right? Working with the ancestors and working with the dead. And this is, by the way, I'm showing this on the screen right now. I went straight to the source. This is voodooneworleans.com. And this is about Marie Laveau
She
here.
is
So that's
also
what we're looking at.
she is also the inspiration for that very famous Cher song, "Dark Lady." She is the inspiration for that. If you might remember that song, but it was sort of modern day version of Marie Laveau. But the interesting thing about it is that when you get into necromancy, it is communicating with the dead. It is raising the dead, supposedly. And it is also the way you make vampires and zombies, and to some existence, even werewolves to a certain extent. These things are spirits inhabiting dead bodies. So what you're talking about is demonic reanimation of the dead.
Oh, well, we've covered that enough for me to believe that really does happen here. Okay, it really does happen, and that can be pretty terrifying. Now, I did kind of mention in the intro a little bit how some people believe that the Grunch came to be, and part of that is Marie Laveau. And there's different stories behind it. There's different characterizations of these grunches. Okay, and it depends on who you're talking to. If you go on, I found an account of an experience with a grunch off of Reddit. Of course, it's on Reddit, right? But it was actually described as more like a pan character, and by pan I mean like a goat man with goat legs and a human type body. But a lot of times people do describe them as looking more goat-like, or even with a goat head, something kind of like that right there. But they sound like a chupacabra or a reptilian. Dennis, what is your take on it?
And here's another thing that strikes me as strange, Jessica. This has a correlation to the Jersey Devil in some ways. Very much like what went on with the legend of that. Supposedly, Marie Laveau turned these children into something that looks very much like the Jersey Devil in some aspects. And you're right, it does have that Goatman quality to it as well. And if you look at some of these drawings, that looks like a chupacabra to me. The chupacabra is known to be a vampire type, blood-sucking monster that supposedly attacks livestock and stuff like that, and has attacked people on occasion. And this sounds very much like that to me. But she supposedly turned to a couple of children like this. She castrated them and turned them into these types of monsters. That's a fascinating thought. But it's very much like the Jersey Devil in some ways.
Oh, well, this is just absolutely weird what I'm about to say. From some of the research I was doing last night. Okay, so it was saying that Marie Laveau, this almost killed her actually from doing this, and this is part of the reason that they said that she actually stepped away from doing her practice for a little while. Now I don't know if that's true or not, but they said it was because of this. And so there's a young deformed child in question. Okay, and whether that young child belonged to her, if it was her offspring, or if it was someone that she was taking care of, the story goes that she did not want it to reproduce. So and it must have been a boy, okay, because the story goes that she castrated him, and she took the product of that castration, if you know what I mean, and divided it into two. God, it's terrible. It's so weird. And in each side of it, one became a female grunch and the other became a male grunch. And that is how it's almost like I want to say like a tulpa or something, but it was made out of the body parts of this castrated child. And that is what the grunch was made of. And I guess it was able to reproduce at some point. They spawned, I guess we could say. That's what my son calls it when he's playing video games. He spawned. um,
It sounds very much like a Joseph Mingler type experiment.
it
And
does.
here's another thing about another aspect of it, Jessica, is like the Frankenstein story. You make a monster and it turns on you, kind of thing. And that was supposedly what happened with Marie Laveau, that this thing turned on her and tried to kill her. That's why it supposedly frightened her so much. When you make a monster, that's the territory you get into. They may come back after you. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, I was debating on whether, I mean, if we're going to cover it, we might as well cover all of it. Okay. And that is a strange story. And I'm not sure if that's like the main story people will tell when they hear about this. Okay. So like I said, we're going to get weird today, and that's real weird. But also, I mentioned I went on Reddit and I found an account, and it seemed to be this happened a long time ago, because it was an older adult who said it was their parents that actually had encountered the Grunch in the swamps down at the bayou. It's the typical story of they went to go park. Okay, and you know what parking is, Dennis? I'm sure you go and you go get some smoochies with your honey at a dark location. Perfect scene for a horror movie. Okay, and they were confronted by a Grunch, what looked like a Goatman human. Okay, a Goatman. And so, but it's so weird that there's so many different descriptions of it, Dennis. There's so many. It depends on who you're talking to. It's a different description. But that's what their experience was with something like a Goatman. Now we know from all the different cryptids, there's all sorts of cryptids out there.
The Goatman is fascinating. We've talked about that before, and we've done a lot of different research into this thing. And it even goes to the god Pan and the satyrs that supposedly ran around in Greek mythology. This goes way, way back, and I think this is a personification of the blend of man and nature. When you think of the Goatman type thing. And I could see that very well being something that is conjured up by black magic. Definitely, you would have that elemental tang to it, you might say. Definitely, that would run along the lines of something like that. And when you conjure something, Jessica, out of the darkness like that, you never know what you're gonna get. Okay. It's just like, Forrest Gump with his box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. That right there would not surprise me at all of being very much what I think. I always think the Grunch looks like to me. It has that Goatman kind of quality to it. And here's another thing: when you get into the swamps, you've got all kind of weird things going on in the swamps. It's very much like the Lizardman in South Carolina, which I've investigated, and I think I caught sight of one time. I have to talk about that some other time. But anyway, when you conjure something up like that, it seems like the nature of the swamp itself has a lot to do with these things, and there's some weird stuff in the swamps.
Oh yeah, for sure. I've covered the Honey Island Swamp Monster before here on the channel. Now that's one of the more there's a lot of pretty famous cryptids out of Louisiana and the Bayou, but the Honey Island Swamp Monster. Now I believe that might be like a Bigfoot, okay, a Bigfoot-like creature, but it's in the swamp, and some people claim that it has scales on it and almost kind of reptilian. So it's a really odd one. I think I may. Well, that may not be the Honey Island Swamp Monster. That's just a swamp thing right there. That's what I would consider a swamp thing. But something like this, that's how it's described right there.
Yeah, I've done a lot of research into the Honey Island Swamp Monster. And really, it may have some attributes to me of Bigfoot, but it's something else about it. It's sort of out of the norm, more so than a Bigfoot sighting. It seems to be, it has like more monstrous qualities to it than Bigfoot does, actually. And I have to wonder if this is something not born out of the swamp. Let me tell you something about the swamps, Jessica. Most all of the United States swamps have had chemicals dumped in them. Okay, I found that out to be true when I was doing the Lizardman here in South Carolina. I don't doubt for a moment that a lot of this doesn't go on further south. They dump all kinds of chemicals and waste materials into the swamp. Who knows what you're going to get out of something like that? Definitely, that's a sort of primordial soup that you run into.
Oh yeah, it's almost like Godzilla, right? Isn't that from like nuclear waste? That was a product of nuclear fallout or something like that.
Mm.
But yeah, we've got all these chemicals. I mean, oh my gosh, I keep hearing Alex Jones's voice in my head about the frogs. I'm not going to go there today, but yeah, chemicals absolutely change your can change. I don't know if it's your DNA, but it just changes your chemical makeup in your body if you're living in it, drinking it, whatever.
Mm.
So lots of weird stuff could come out of the swamp. Absolutely. Not to mention all the bacteria and the algae and all that kind of stuff too. But the magical aspect of it all, knowing that there's so much of this, voodoo and things like that going on down there, black magic practices are pretty prevalent down there. Lots of things could be conjured too. Conjuring cryptids. That's an ongoing theme that we have here on the channel, conjuring cryptids, because I think it happens more often than we might think. As a matter of fact, hey, Marty Davis is here. She says, yes, please talk about the Lizardman. Inquiring minds want to know. I mean, you have a very famous Lizardman in South Carolina where you live, Dennis, called the Lizardman of Scapor Swamp. And that came out of a swamp.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think a large percentage, in my own personal opinion, a large percentage of cryptids are conjured up type things. I think there may be some different dark magical connection to some of this stuff. Even so far as Dogman, and even to a certain extent, something like the Honey Island Monster would definitely fall into that category. Yes, and I think dogmen may be conjured up by these things too, because I read a lot of reports of dogmen actually invading people's homes or appearing in jail cells, actually talking and communicating with people along the lines of a very dark like cult that might be activated by these things. So the list goes on and on into this. And yes, and here's another thought. There are a lot of stories in the bayou of frog people. That would be your kind of reptilian version, southern reptilians, you might say, version of this thing going on. So you've got, like I said, you've got the influence of the swamp, you've got the influence of dark black voodoo magic going on. You have chemicals dumped out here. You're coming from many different ways onto this, but there's something definitely dark out there in that swamp.
There are. I mean, we've got the Rougarou. That's one of my favorites out of New Orleans. I mean, I've even done a remote viewing target of this is actually the she-wolf of Mobile, Alabama. That's a couple states over, of course. But they have stuff like lots of werewolf sightings out in these areas. And Skip, thank you so much for that super sticker. I appreciate your support. That means the world to me. So I can't not show pictures of the Rougarou crawling out of the swamp. Okay. But okay, these grunches, the grunch, it's supposed to be a grunch, but there's a whole bunch of them, obviously. And I gotta also say, it sounds a lot like the Grinch, Dennis. What do you think? Is there a connection between the Grunch and the Grinch?
I think I'd rather run into the Grinch than the Grunch.
I think I would too. I don't know. Well, I guess, yeah, the Grinch can be reformed. Okay. And, right at the very end of the show, he finds his heart. I don't think he had a heart or something. I don't remember the whole story behind it, but he was a grouchy Grinch. And now we got the Grunches. So, all right. So it got its name because of the name of the road, allegedly, that these things were being seen on. But now if you go back to a map, they say that you cannot find Grunch Road anywhere. And they say that actually the road was at one time made of shells from the Mississippi River and dirt from the Gulf of Mexico or the Gulf of America. I don't know. It depends what day it is. And But when you go to look for this road, it's not there anymore. So some people claim that it's probably been covered up or paved over, and they've just gotten rid of this road for whatever reason. But
Actually, you hit on that, Jessica. Actually, they called that a grunch because that was sort of a dirt road paved with gravel. They used
oh,
to call those grunch roads because of the sound the gravel makes when you drive over it.
it
Um,
crunches, but
yeah,
it's
that makes sense.
grunchy. Grunchy. Yeah, that
Hmm.
makes sense
Yep.
because of the seashells on it and stuff too.
Yeah,
Wow.
that too. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that only a good Southerner would know something like that, Dennis. I appreciate that. That's great. Yeah, so there's probably no Grunch Road then. Okay, well that solves that. That solves that mystery. But yeah, there's no actual Grunch Road according to GPS and map systems. So, but yeah, it's known. They think that some people think they've pinpointed where this actually is, where like the Grunches were seen the most, and it's called Gannon Road. It's around the Little Woods neighborhood of New Orleans. Nonetheless, these things are seen all over the place, and some people believe that they could be not a chupacabra, not a goatman, but a cannibalistic tribe. Okay, cannibalistic tribe. Dennis, have you heard this version yet?
Yes, that's sort of like the equivalent of what we talked about in the Appalachian. Supposedly, these people are feral and they are cannibal. They will eat you if you can get into their territory. You're on the menu, okay, definitely. And supposedly, they are interbred people that are living deep in the swamps. And if you enter their territory, they will begin to hunt you without a doubt. That would be a terrifying thing to think about along some of these back roads and all that. That these people are watching and waiting to entrap you somewhere and have you for dinner.
Mm-hmm. It is pretty terrifying. I see Dan in the chat. Hey, Dan, he said that they are backwoods, outback inbreds. That's what he said. um, okay, it's Kent Baxter. Thank you so much for that super sticker. That's so sweet of you. I appreciate your support so much. Um, okay, yeah. So this is, like I said, it's not the reptilian. It's not the goat man. It's not um, what the chupacabra. These are the backwoods feral people, Dennis, like you said, and these are actually thought to be the creation of the devil as well, though, according to local legend around there. And this is just a legend that's been passed down for generations, of course, and it refers to a group of people who are descendant of albino people. This is the legend: albino people with dwarfism. Okay, so
The albino people are tied into the feral people to a certain extent on that as well. You've got some very isolated pockets in the swamp. People that don't communicate socially with other people that much, and they live in the swamp. They live off the swamp. They don't really need to come into town for anything very much like we would. So these people are very self-dependent upon what they do. And here's another thing: when you run into people like that, Jessica, and I'm not going to say they're like animals, but they're very close to that in many ways. They're very close to nature, and they have gone back to nature to a certain extent. And you got to draw a line between what may be the feral people who have absolutely gone completely wild, but then you've got the swamp people that live out there, and they're very close to nature. They may not have gone feral like these other guys, but they are isolated, cut off, and very nature-oriented people. Put it that way.
nature oriented. That's an interesting way to put it. Yes. Um, well, that story links back to a deal with the devil as well, Dennis. That's the originators of that crew right there had made a deal with the devil. They all got banished to the swamp, and that's why they couldn't come out of there. And so the stories go that they sacrifice animals, they do rituals out there, and these are and it's kind of, I don't know if that's like derogatory. I'm not even sure about. I don't know anymore. Sometimes I try to be, respectful of labeling people and things like that. It's hard to read stuff like this, not knowing like people with albinism, and they're also pig like dwarfs, I think is what they call them. And so I don't know the politically correct terms here. So, but it sounds kind of like it's kind of difficult to talk about that. All these different types, it just seems like outcast to me. Okay, whatever this is, it's something that's been outcasted, a result of a demonic deal with the devil or something like that. And I don't know. Could this also be like a cautionary tale to keep people out of the swamps?
Well, definitely, especially when it comes to pig people. A lot of stories have been told about that. And actually, the pig is very close in human anatomy to human anatomy. So you could see a hybrid of that definitely turning up on something like that. But getting into the witchcraft aspects, now there's a lot of witchcraft that's not voodoo practice out in the swamp areas in the bayou. Um, a lot of this is what it's very much like the Appalachian magic we've talked about before, the witchcraft that goes on in the Appalachians. This is a thing in the South. Some people, especially isolated pockets like this, embrace this witchcraft to a great extent. And some of this witchcraft is very, very dark. That's where you get the covens of witches. You get a lot of this witchcraft stuff supposedly going on, and that's the tie-in with Marie Laveau about the Grunch. She sort of cursed. She created these cursed beings, and then drove them out, and they went into, of course, the swamps and began to propagate out there, and that is a supposed species of these things still haunting the swamps of the Southland. Very much like the Rougarou. Take a look at the Rougarou. It is very demonic in many ways. It is a thing that possesses people. That's different than your regular werewolf, okay? Werewolves don't usually do that. This thing actually possesses people, turns them into this for a certain amount of time, and they pass this curse on to someone else. And it's just like a contagious bug or something. It gets started in a communicable type disease that goes from one person to another, and so on. But it feeds off of these dark people. You have to have a very dark nature for the Rougarou spirit to take you over. Okay, and to do this, you sort of violate the precepts of the Catholic Church. These people are very Catholic. A lot of the people in the Bayou, because they're from the French and Spanish, but mostly French, and who are very Catholic. Um, if you violate certain precepts of the church, you could also become a Rougarou. Okay, that's another thing. So if you got a dark history, it's very much like the vampire. They used to believe that a very evil person, when they died, would come back as a vampire. And the Greeks believed that, by the way, if you had red hair and you died, you would come back as a vampire because you had red hair. But anyway,
Oh,
uh, yeah. Anyway, if you had a reputation, here's the interesting thing about it, Jessica. If you had a very bad reputation, that reputation would follow you from beyond the grave. Okay, and you would come back with that and be more evil when you came back in that respect. So there's a definite dark evil connection thing going on out there. So you've got voodoo on one hand and dark witchcraft on the other. You got quite a mixture.
you do. So basically, just stay out of the swamps, y'all. Stay out of the swamps at night. How about that? Or have a lot of protection around you and on you if you do. Kent has an interesting point here. He says, I wonder if all these things were part of a culling of the population. Dennis, that would make sense if there was a need for, and I say a need, people's sick minds think there's a need for a reduction of the population, let's just say. Uh, Send out their murderous, grunches and stuff. What do you think about that? I think it could be possible. What do you think?
Yeah, the Grunches, with the Grunches especially, yeah, that would might be something definitely with that. It might be a way to keep the population down, and keep it under control. You have certain factors, social factors that are at work here. You know, like I said, these people are very Catholic in their approach to things, and very Catholic in their birth thing as well. You know, birth prevention and all that. It ties into the religious aspects of it very deeply. It wouldn't surprise me though if in some isolated pockets there's definitely some population control going on with these people.
Oh yeah. Um, Zinja says reptilians love blood. It makes them strong. So when people do rituals, they summon reptilians and don't realize it at all. They think they're worshiping goats or satanic rituals, but in fact, they are pulling those in. Ooh, well, is that could that?
You're getting into the demonic now very deeply, because I think there is a distinct, and having had some of the experiences I've had, I can say without a doubt, reptilian is demonic and demonic is reptilian. It just goes along with that. And if you start calling up some of these entities, conjuring them up, or calling them forth, raising demons, however you want to put it, you're going to get reptilian type beings out of that. And yes, they are after blood. They love blood sacrifices. The blood is life, and especially if it's got, you know, a lot of adrenaline and fear in it, is precipitated with fear. They love that even more. That's more like a narcotic for these guys, and they are drawn to that. So if you have any kind of blood rituals going on, whether it be in voodoo or black magic, whichever one, and like sometimes there's a very thin line between both of those, definitely, especially in Louisiana. Uh, you're gonna have these guys drawn to it, because wherever there's blood, there's definitely, you're gonna find the demonic.
Oh yeah, and that's we seem to always kind of go there, with a lot of these things, especially if you're talking about conjuring cryptids. It's part of it, 100%. And William's in the chat. Nighthawk High Strangeness podcast. Y'all go subscribe over on YouTube. He says we have medicine men that go completely feral and live with the wildlife and nature far from humans, and that's pretty awesome. That's cool. That is really getting back to nature right there, and yeah, super wild and free right there. But I mean,
Well,
you do become a little more animalistic, right, when you do stuff like that.
that would definitely be an occupational hazard. Put it that way.
Yeah.
Anybody, not just medicine men, but anybody that messes around with witchcraft, when you step over that dark line and go further into the darkness, it sucks you in, just like it's, like the swamp would do, or a quicksand would do you. That's the way the darkness is. No matter what your occupation is, if you start screwing around with witchcraft, it's going to eventually put hooks in you and pull you deeper into that darkness. And then you don't want that to happen, because, like we've said before, once that darkness swallows you up, it takes your humanity away from you, and you lose your soul. That's what basically happens. And that can happen in any occupation, whether you're a medicine man or a voodoo practitioner or a shaman or whatever the situation is. You always have that factor of turning to the dark side, and you don't ever want to do that.
Oh. Well, no, not most of us would not want to go to the dark side, but however, there are a lot of people that have turned to the dark side. It's just part of human nature. There's always going to be those who turn to the dark arts and the dark side and things like that, and thus here we have the Grunch. Here we have the Grunch. No matter what story you're told or what encounters people talk about, they all go back to a deal with the devil. And I keep hearing this word. I keep feeling like tulpa or something, and that would be more closely related to what Marie Laveau apparently did, or allegedly did, by taking the body parts of that deformed child and creating two Grunches out of it. So That was more of like a creation, a dark
Sort of like
creation that she
cloning
made.
a little bit here.
Hmm.
That's sort of a black magic way to clone. Absolutely,
Cloning.
Jessica. Yeah, and supposedly beings have been made like this through necromancy and other aspects of these things through the demonic power. Here's the thing about making a deal with the devil, okay, Jessica. Whether you're at the crossroads and you want to play your guitar better or whatever the situation is, when you make a deal with the devil, he's always going to come out on top. Okay, that's just the way that goes. He's always going to, or as we say in the South, you're going to end up with the short end of the stick. That's
Yeah.
the way it goes with the devil. And if you make a deal with the devil, you can expect bad things to happen. It's never usually any good. But the interesting thing about making deals with the devil is one thing: you get power from it, and you get drunk on that power. You get a high from that power, and you start wanting more and more of it, and that's how you go deeper into that darkness I'm talking about, and it swallows you up. That power is the most addictive thing on this planet. That's just the way it goes. Ask any millionaire, or ask any billionaire. They have a sense of power about them because their money gives them power. Okay, and that's the way it goes with witchcraft and voodoo. It gives you power, but look at what a terrible price you have to pay for it.
That's right. That's right. Well, I've always traditionally heard that people who practice the dark arts can conjure up spirits and demons to work for them and things like that. Now, someone with the knowledge and the expertise that Marie Laveau had, could she have potentially made something like the grunches, as we call them, to maybe work for her or something? Or, I mean, what would have been the purpose of her doing that? Of even taking the body parts of a child and creating something that's kind of heinous like that.
Absolutely, but you run the risk of that turning on you, and that's supposedly what happened with Marie Laveau. Her magic eventually, no matter how good it was at doing what she wanted it to do, eventually it always comes with a price, and she lost control over this supposedly. And when this stuff it got out of control with her, that of course that would frighten anybody, knowing that this. Here's the thing about black magic, Jessica. The more you practice it, and that price that it requires is never a good price, and it's going to come back on you. Here's what they used to say: I can cast a death curse on you right now. Some of it's going to come back to me, a little bit of it. Maybe not enough to kill me, but enough to affect me badly because I'm doing dark magic, you see. And it always comes with a price. Even some of it comes back on the person doing it.
Yeah,
You've got to understand that's part of the occupational hazard on that.
yeah. There's something called karma too. Okay, and hey
Mhm.
Barry's in the chat. He says, once you start down the dark path, forever will it dominate your destiny. And that is from Yoda from Empire Strikes Back. Thank you, Barry. That's the truth. Uh, Got to be careful going down that dark path, for sure. And hey, Steve says you will surely pay
Also,
for it in the end, if not
also
sooner.
called the left hand path, too, by the way. If you take the left hand path, supposedly not the right path, but the left hand path, it will lead you deeper into the darkness. And we don't want to go that way, especially when you're faced with life. But some people make the choice. Some people make that choice. Say, "Yeah, I'm gonna do it, no matter what the cost. I want the power." You know, and that's the way
Power.
that usually goes. Yeah, the power.
Yeah. Power is corrupt. It can corrupt a person, right? The need for the power and the
Mhm.
money, power, respect, fame, all that kind of stuff. It can definitely corrupt people. And oh gosh, William, that's an interesting comment. He said that's what this is William said. That's why so many preachers and pastors are turning dark. Oh my gosh. There is one video of some preacher who has got some characteristics that are a little demonic, a little bit. I can't think of his name right now, but he's all over the internet. And that man's he's got something dark in him, I think. It may switch on and off. But No shade, y'all, to anybody. I'm just saying. But there's that one. Y'all know who I'm talking about. I don't know his name. I try not to watch it because I don't like watching scary possessed people like that.
Power,
Um,
power, Jessica, is the ultimate narcissistic thing because it turns you in on yourself, and that's all. You only can see what you want and nothing else. Nothing else matters. You can't love anybody else or anything else the way you love yourself. That's a narcissist thing, okay? And we've all known people like that from time to time, absolutely. But these people take it even a few steps higher, and that's the bad thing.
yeah, it is. I know some people take it a little too far here. Okay, well, I wanted to go back a little bit and let's talk about where these. What are the characteristics of the grunch? Like, where has it been seen? What was it doing when it was seen? And some people say that right after the Hurricane Katrina happened, Barry had given me that remote viewing target of the chupacabra, based off of a report that there was a hurricane in Puerto Rico, and a medical lab, some kind of like animal testing facility or something in Puerto Rico got flooded, and they say that these chupacabras got out and they went and they wreaked havoc all over Puerto Rico, and they called them the chupacabra because those are the goat suckers. And they had a tongue that came out of its mouth that had a proboscis, I think is how you say it, and that's how it would tie in. It would attach to the goats or whatever it was eating, and it would suck all the blood out through its tongue like that, just like a mosquito does. And
Well,
and mhm.
that one sort of goes along with the swing. Have you heard of the swing? It has a long tongue that supposedly can be outside your window, and it can send that tongue into your house. And if you're pregnant, it will suck the fetus out of your belly.
Oh, oh
Yeah,
gosh,
yeah, that's
it's
what it
awful.
fit. That's just number one thing it likes to feed off of, by the way. But it can also take human blood as well, very much like the chupacabra is supposed to do.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's really terrifying, and I don't even want to think about that. Okay, um, so people were seeing these chupacabras all over Puerto Rico, and they didn't know what they were. Barry had given me that as a target, and I was seeing like mammals and reptiles combined in like a one body, and it turned out to be this is some sort of an experiment by that lab where they took I don't know if it was like kangaroos and dinosaur DNA was in my remote viewing data and all that stuff. But nonetheless, this is some kind of weird experiment, probably government funded for all we know, right? And so, but these are actually sounding. Some of the grunch reports sound just like these chupacabras out of Puerto Rico. They say that right after Hurricane Katrina. So here's another hurricane, Dennis. Another hurricane hits. I mean, I'm wondering, did another lab get damaged and maybe these things got out? Because it says that some people saw these grunches going around and sucking the blood out of the farm animals around there and stuff. So it looked something like a chupacabra, but I think they said they were green. Maybe they were chupacabras, but they were attributing them to the
Well,
grunches.
let me say this: you could very easily mistake the chupacabra and the grunch. Okay, they're very similar looking things. But the thing about the chupacabra is, and I put a lot of credence to this. I think this thing is some kind of escaped lab experiment that went wrong and it got out, got loose. It may be propagating out there in the wilderness. There may be, I'm sure, without doubt, more than one uh, chupacabra. There may be a whole lot of them now out there in isolated places like swamps and so on. And here's another thing you must consider too, Miss Jessica. When you have something like a natural thing like a hurricane take place, very much just like an eclipse of the sun or a volcanic eruption or an earthquake or whatever, it tends to sort of shake the supernatural world awake sometimes. And you have things happen, unusual things happen in the aftermath of storms. And they even talk about demons inside of storms, that they have heard terrible wails and screams from these demons that supposedly live inside the winds of these storms. So the list goes on and on. Definitely, you have some very unusual activity taking place during storms, eclipses, whatever the unnatural part of nature takes place. You're gonna have an unnatural reaction from the supernatural world as well.
Yeah. Barry says, and you're 100% right. Yes. Barry says lab in Puerto Rico that got hit by Hurricane Carolyn, and they got out in 1994. Thank you, Barry. You know, a lot of times, I mean, Hurricane Katrina devastated the entire region. I mean, I think it was a category 5, if I'm not mistaken. The levees all broke. People were stranded for weeks. I mean, it never really got back to normal for years. I mean, I went to New Orleans, I don't know how many years after that happened, probably several years after that happened. I did go to an Atlanta Falcons and New Orleans Saints game down there. And I made the mistake of wearing my Falcons jersey down Rivers, or what is that called? Bourbon Street. Be careful, y'all. Don't do that. But anyways, it still had not recovered yet when I was there from the hurricane. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's a big rivalry. If anybody didn't know, okay, the Falcons and the Saints. I don't know if they still are. I don't watch football anymore, but it used to be the biggest rivalry with Atlanta were the Saints. So, but the area had still not recovered yet. And when we have things like the hurricanes that hit and that was that devastating to that area, things are getting flushed out of the tunnel systems, of the caverns and the caves. And so it could be, some of these things could be like lab made for sure. Some of them could have just been flushed out. Don't you think, Dennis? From the water.
Oh, absolutely. I think it would take something like that to drive some of these, or misplace some of these things, drive them out. Absolutely, especially from out of tunnels and caves that might be flooded or whatever the situation. To me, and that and maybe some of these labs that some of this stuff again. The story is that the lab that was destroyed during the hurricane in Puerto Rico, that some of the chupacabra was got brought to this country on ships and stuff that were coming from there supposedly. So it's supposedly that's where it spread from. Okay. But that's the unnatural thing about it. But if you've got other things like that living, or the chupacabras would definitely hide in tunnels and stuff like that. And I think the grunches would too. They would live underground because that's the perfect place to hide. If you're trying to get away from men and women, you don't want to be seen by anything, you go underground. But like you talking about these lake monsters, okay, the lake monsters, they live in the lake, perfect place to hide. Think about it, okay? That's where I would go, either in the water or under the ground, because that is the supreme hiding place, without doubt. And these things definitely would take something like a hurricane or earthquake to release these things. And I'm told this, I've actually had an interview with USA Today a few years back about the big eclipse that we had then. I say you can look for unnatural things to happen when unnatural things are going on, like eclipses, earthquakes, storms, whatever the situation.
Well, as a field researcher, I think now, from doing all these shows and all this research, I think the best time to go have an experience with a underground cryptid or something that's weird that is not seen very often would be right after a natural disaster strikes. That's when they're going to be more visible. That's when they're going to be, let's just say, like the flooding. Unfortunately, we had devastating flooding up in western North Carolina and eastern Tennessee recently, and that was because of a hurricane as well. The hurricane rains and
yes, if you're doing some monster hunting, you got to understand your monster. Okay, you got to understand what might bring it out, where it may be, and all that. Just like you would hunt deer, you're hunting monster. Okay, now here's the thing about it. Just like you and I both know that the best time that you're going to probably have a Bigfoot experience is either very early in the morning or late in the evening. Okay. Right before it gets really dark or right before it gets real light, you have a better chance then. So that's when you would hunt it. Okay. That's when you would go looking for it. So I think definitely if you have something like a natural disaster that takes place, whether it's earthquake, tornado, whatever the situation, you're going to have some unnatural things come out because of it. They're going to be either displaced or the storm's going to bring them out to look around. Maybe they're feeding all the things and that. Whatever the situation, you can look. If something unnatural is going on, look for something unnatural to come out of it.
Mm-hmm. Larry Sharp, thank you so much for gifting that membership to one lucky person in the chat today. I appreciate that. You're so sweet, Larry. That is huge. Yeah, and you guys can join the Hunt Club if you want. It's a membership on my YouTube channel. I put out exclusive content there, and that's what Larry just gifted somebody. It was one of those memberships. So thank you. As you're talking about that, Dennis, I'm thinking about the power, the energy that a thunderstorm puts off. The lightning strikes, the thunder, the ionization in the air, okay, and the smell, the energy, the feeling of it. It's powerful. I love standing outside during a thunderstorm. I love it. I know it's weird. I mean, I need to be careful that I don't get swept off by a tornado or something, okay? Because I would go out there just to experience it, okay? And I think I have before, but it's a wonderful. It's wild. It's just it's intense. Okay. And so I know that animals, even cryptids, humans too, we're kind of separated from it, because we're not paying attention much anymore. But when you're in connection with the earth and all the elements out there, I mean, I'm attracted to it. I would think that, something like a Lizardman or even a grunch, a chupacabra, whatever it is, would go out there and be attracted to that energy and maybe feed off of it a little bit. I would think. Maybe that's why they're spotted during storms.
I love a good thunderstorm. Okay.
Me too.
To me, that seems like the world's alive. It's nature's fireworks. I don't, like I say, I don't want to get blown away with a tornado, and I've experienced that a few times, but I like a good thunderstorm. But look at the reaction, Jessica, that it has with certain pets like cats and dogs, how they react to thunderstorms and all that. So you could imagine something unnatural, how it would react to something like that. And it would definitely try to bring it out, from where it's at. So that wouldn't surprise me a bit, actually. And after a good thunderstorm, go looking for Bigfoot. You might see, you get a better chance of catching sight of him at that time than you would at some other time. So anything unnatural goes on, look for the unnatural to happen, whatever that may be. But when you get back to the point about the grunches being a lot of these things, a lot of these cryptids being conjured, you will probably see things like that in the darkest of night, usually. That's when these nocturnal things come out. And we all know even Bigfoot, Dogman, chupacabra, whatever the situation, they're usually nocturnal because there again, I think they're coming out because they don't want to run into people or they don't want to deal with humans or whatever the situation. So that doesn't surprise me a bit. But like I say, if you're going to monster hunt, you got to know your monster.
You do. Well, I'm learning mine, but hey, there's a new one every day. There's a new one every day, Dennis. The universe never disappoints. Okay, there's always something new. Now, this is this picture that we have up on the screen right now. I know we've got people listening on podcast. You guys go to my YouTube channel to check this out if you'd like to see all the pictures that I'm showing today. But this looks like more like a chupacabra that was made in the lab. And Barry had a really good point a while ago. He was mentioning that he believes that the dog type chupacabra, which are different, okay, because I'm referring to, when I say chupacabra, what I'm referring to is more like the type that was potentially created in the lab, that was a chimera mix of something like an ET, kangaroo, something with spikes down his back. That's kind of what the way that they are describing these grunches. And Barry believes that the dog type that is seen a lot in Central and South America, that he thinks that might be a thylacine. potentially. But we're referring to the little green ones today, or the gray skinned ones, and so it does look a lot like the Grunch. Okay, and let's see. Here's another picture right here. That looks kind of in between the dog-like type and the type out of Puerto Rico right there.
I could see some misidentification going on here, definitely with that. But the interesting thing about the chupacabra, it's described in some ways very reptilian-like in its in the way it looks. Even some of them have been described having wings. That sounds very much like a gargoyle type thing, but that's an interesting thing about them. But now the Grunch is described very much like we said earlier, having some Goatman-like attributes to it. So it's a little bit. To me, I believe if I had both of them together, I could tell which was which. No doubt about it. But if that Grunch has that Goatman-like quality to it, because here's the interesting thing: you got to always remember what is the symbol of the devil? The goat. Okay.
The Goatman.
And if you're gonna have something to ride from a deal with the devil, you're definitely gonna have something that probably has some goat in it.
Yes. Speaking of the devil, we got Matthew Delph in the chat. What's up, Matthew Delph? Have you been summoned? Matthew Delph, that is one of my research buddies, and he's actually spent a lot of time down in New Orleans, and even researching the Honey Island swamp monster and vampires. You name it, this man has done it, and he is a badass monster hunter. Hey, Matthew, thank you for being here. He says New Orleans has a special energy, and it's what I call sour ground, like from Pet Cemetery term.
Mm-hmm.
New Orleans is an area that attracts evil and the supernatural, paranormal, vampires, witches, rougarou, Honey Island swamp monster, etc. Evil energy takes over people like possession and other crazy things in New Orleans. That's why you came back acting weird. I'm just kidding, Mike.
There are definitely places around the world that attract these things. I don't know if it's intersecting ley lines or what the deal is, but there seem to be certain areas that attract this stuff, and definitely New Orleans area and Louisiana Bayou country would definitely be on the list of that. To me, it makes perfect sense. Because there seem to be, I don't know if they're hell mouths there or hell gates or whatever is going on with the situation. You have certain areas that just attract the darkness. And I think, too, you got to remember something else about that area. It is a blend of so many different cultures and belief systems. No wonder it is highly spiritual in its aspects.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also, I just happened to pull up a map of the ley lines as well, and let's see.
Mm-hmm.
It would look as though there is an intersection of ley lines right there near New Orleans. It's definitely in Louisiana, right beside Louisiana, right there, I guess. A lot of intersection. I think I can't. Okay, well, New Orleans. It's not at New Orleans. It's not there. It's actually more towards Texas. Okay, is what it looks like. But nonetheless, there's still ley lines going that way. And who's to say there's not smaller ley lines down there? Now, if you guys can see, I know there are people who may not know where New Orleans is.
There's a big conflict out in the big conflict in the western part. That's Skinwalker territory.
Oh gosh. Okay, well, it is just rich in cryptid activity right there, and I guess those ley lines intersecting would be more towards Baton Rouge, going into towards East Texas right there. I hear East Texas is full of cryptids as well, right? Even Goatman. What is that? The Lake Worth monster, I think, is not too far from all that, and that is a Goatman-like creature, I think.
Well, it's been my research over the years, Jessica. There's a definite connection with ley lines, going on with this stuff. I mean, it's plain to see if you look at it and look at the many different mounds and churches and some of these other things that are built along these ley lines. I believe without a doubt, if you got a ley line, and I've got one running right through here where I'm at right now. If you got a ley line, you've also got what I call the fallout of it. on either side of that line, you can have a lot of strange paranormal activity as well.
Wow. Well, it's all that residual ley line energy there. What's up, Jeff Townsend? We got Jeff Townsend in the chat. It's good to see you. He is my OG henchman. Y'all better watch out. That's my bodyguard right there. Just so y'all know, he turns into a werewolf sometimes too. So don't mess with Jeff. Okay. All right. And oh my gosh, I think William is referring to one of those pictures of the chupacabras. Or not chupacabras, the grunches we were just showing. With your coffee and your donuts. Absolutely. Yeah, it's very interesting. Wait, let me see. I wanted to say there's another intersection of ley lines near where you live. Let me pull this map back up. No, actually, the intersection is down there at the Bermuda Triangle. That's it. I knew it was off the coast in the Atlantic, but I couldn't remember where it was exactly. There's another intersection of ley lines right there. I think I don't know if that's Bermuda right there where the Bermuda Triangle is, but it's not too far off the coast of Florida where Coral Castle sits.
That's definitely look down there at that other big conflux down there. That's the Bermuda Triangle.
Mm-hmm. And you wonder why planes go missing and ships.
Mm-hmm.
Probably because of that. It's got to be a part of it because the compasses go cattywampus.
It's speculated that wherever these confluxes are, Jessica, are hell mouths or supposed gates to hell or different areas like that. And that's where, of course, this darkness is supposed to be higher in frequency, in other words, than in other places.
Mm-hmm. William's asking, what parallel latitude and longitude lines is New Orleans on? I have no idea, but I bet somebody in the chat might know. If anybody knows, y'all throw it up in the chat today. Or you may have already done it, and I'm just behind. I'm not sure. Oh, there we go. William already has the answer to it. 33 parallel has a lot of weirdness on it. Maybe it's the 33rd.
Yeah, the 33rd. I've done a lot of research on 33rd parallel. There's some wild stuff going on with it on either side of it as well. That's the fallout that I'm talking about. It's almost as if like it's a radiation fallout kind of thing going on with the paranormal stuff.
Yeah, for whatever reason, along some of these latitude and longitude lines, that's where you can follow like the UFO sightings, for instance. Okay, they're going to follow these parallels. It's just it's places of power. Apparently, it's the energetics of it. It's got to be. I don't know. I don't have any other explanation for it other than just the energetics of those places. So,
and I've had a lot of cases with people actually being haunted by UFOs. These things will follow them around and harass them. To a certain extent, I had one lady that was so bothered by these things that she said that she didn't want to look up in the sky when she went outside. She was afraid of what she might see. So you have to wonder what's going on with that. Why these things are so attracted to different places. We've had a lot of UFO sightings in South Carolina over the years. One very dramatic one, not too far from where I'm sitting right now. It made national and international news when it happened. So you've got some very distinct areas that are high in unnatural activity.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Philip says Disneyland is on latitude 33. Well, of course it is. Watch your kids. I would never take my kid there. I'm sorry, I just wouldn't do that. My kid's over there coughing. If y'all hear him, that's him. That's him. It's not an EVP. That's my kid. Oh my gosh, anytime he's home, he's usually in the background making noise. So, but yeah, there's a lot of places where they would do rituals, right, Dennis, or on a lot of these ley lines and power grids. Let's just say, natural power grids.
Well, then you have that, and I think they also have cursed areas that may have a patina around them of this darkness. There's a curse on some of these areas, definitely on some Native American lands. This has been done, but also you got to remember wherever dark witchcraft has been practiced, rituals have been done, doorways that have been opened spiritually. It leaves a dark stain upon the land, a dark spiritual stain that usually lingers for many, many, many years.
Oh, that's so sad too. Zinja says a lot of aliens fly into Bermuda Triangle and certain parts of the world, especially in Malaysia. A lot of werewolves on the island of Penang, and government covers it up.
I've heard of that.
I need to look into Penang. I do. I've not heard that. Well, I've heard about the. Oh man, I actually was kind of flip flopping over whether I wanted to do a show on, because I've done a lot of shows on reptilians and werewolves lately. But I am really fascinated in the cave out of, I think it's Vietnam though. It's not Malaysia. I was going to say Malaysia, but I think it's Vietnam, where they have the reptilian cave there, and that may be coming up soon. I may be doing a show on that. But yeah, you can find these cryptids everywhere.
One cave found down there that has its own ecosystem to it. It's almost like another world, stepping into another world. Very much like Jurassic Park or something like that along the same lines. By the way, I did some research not long ago about some of the Nazi experiments that went on. There was one that went on with the Heck. I think they were the Heck brothers. That's HEC. Heck brothers were actually trying to bring back the aurochs. The aurochs is was sort of like a giant ox type thing, and they were going to put it in parts of the Black Forest. We talked about them trying to make a natural preserve out of that, a natural reserve, and it killed a lot of people and drove a lot of people out of the villages to do it. And these brothers were actually, and guess what? They did actually come up with some ox that look very much like the aurochs, but it's not as big, of course. The aurochs stood like 7 foot high. That's a big cattle right there. That's a lot. That's a very large cattle type thing, and it had like horns wider than an automobile. You're talking about a big thing that was, and it went extinct many, many years ago, and they were trying to bring it back, just like Jurassic Park. And this is back in World War II now, and they actually, to this day, the remnant of those cows are running in the forest. They're called Hitler's cows, by the way, and they are huge. They are much bigger than any regular cows would be. This is a genetic experiment that went on in World War II. This stuff is real, folks. We're not making it up. I mean, this stuff is real, and there's a lot that went on that we don't know about. But all of that was brought over to this country, folks. All of that was brought over here, and it's still ongoing stuff that the government's involved in.
Allegedly, this is for entertainment purposes only. Oh my God,
yeah.
I always have to say that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we do know that there's a lot of experimentation going on. The past 2 shows, I think I brought up the whole Billy Whack Dairy conversation. Excuse me. And so, and that is where the scientist from the OSS was brought over from Sweden or Switzerland, and he was actually creating animal-human hybrids underneath that dairy, allegedly. Now, he also had a prize bull. Okay, so you're talking about that. This man, and I was thinking about that as you were talking about that. His big thing was he showed dairy cows and bulls in competitions and made a lot of money off of it.
Supposedly, the reptilians are very interested in this stuff too. There's a lot of reports of that, supposedly, and all this with the underground military bases and containment areas. Well, some of this, there's one guy supposedly walked through the containment area, and he was looking at all the cages, and every cage had a werewolf in it. A lot of this stuff is supposed to be very important to the government in their aspect. We talked about, several shows we've done on the Super Soldier Project and all that other stuff that's going on. There's more than just that. But it has to deal with a lot of hybrid, and it has to deal with a lot of what we would call occultic type creatures. They are definitely interested in conjuring stuff up too out of the darkness. You can bring these things through these dark doorways. And like I say, like I said earlier about the box of chocolates, you never know what you're going to get when you do that. So you got to have some place to contain this when you do it. But this story's been told about for many, many years. It goes back to the island of Dr. Moreau. It goes way back, way back. And this stuff is still ongoing, though. They've never stopped it, okay? It's probably ramped up even higher now than it's ever been before. But supposedly the reptilians are very interested in hybridization.
Dennis, how many of these cryptids that we talk about, all these weird creatures of the night, these monsters, the things that are hiding in the shadows, how many do you think they are in, like 50-50, 20-80? How many would be, and that's percentages, how much would be lab made and created experiments by scientists such as the Billywhack monster, the Billywhack dairy lab, that kind of a thing going on in the 1920s? How many of these are created as opposed to natural that are of this earth? What do you think?
I think it probably runs along the lines of about maybe 80% that's brought here through dimensional manipulation. And I think the rest, maybe, the rest is probably something naturally occurring on this planet or unnaturally occurring, put it that way. It may be aberrations of nature out there, definitely. And of course, if you're like me, you trace a lot of this stuff back to supposed the Nephilim and all that other stuff that went on. So a lot of these things are being, I think, a lot of things that we're seeing, a lot of things that we can't explain. Maybe some things that are brought, whether they're brought naturally or unnaturally, through certain dimensional doorways into our reality. I think a lot of that's going on. And it may be naturally occurring in some areas like these hotspots we're talking about. It may be naturally occurring in those areas. But also, I think there's a large percentage of it is manipulated by mankind.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of manipulation going on. And yeah, it's people who are and we know personally from what we talked about today. We know about Marie Laveau being a voodoo practitioner and in conjuring things and doing spells and potentially being the creator of the Grunch or the Grunches. Okay, but she's just one that is the best well known out of New Orleans. But there are people that do this all over the globe, all over the earth, all the time. Rituals, spells. I believe even like you go online to like social media, and I don't know why it pops up on my feed sometimes, but there's a lot of people that do like spell, and and some spells can be good as long as there are for your highest good and it's to help yourself. But like there's a lot of people that put dark witchcraft on people. I was talking the other day about that woman at the Super Bowl with the little voodoo doll that she was like hitting it with the needle over and over again, trying to I don't know,
By
give
the
a
way,
heart attack or
Jessica,
something.
by the way, I need you to send me just a little clipping of your hair, if you don't mind.
Oh, absolutely not.
Anyway,
That's how easy it could be, though, right? Just getting a little piece of hair.
if Marie Laveau actually originated the Grunches, she didn't do it scientifically, okay? She did it through black magic. She took that part of their anatomy and cloned something out of it, unnatural from the darkness. She conjured it up, definitely. She didn't do anything scientific here, okay? That was her method. So put it that way. And her method was magic. And what is magic? A lot of people ask me, what do you believe in magic? Oh, definitely. Magic is a factor in this universe, whether it's manipulated or naturally occurring. We got to remember this magic is nothing but the changing of reality.
Yes, your perception of reality too. I found something that's keeps kind of going around in my mind since Matthew Delph put that comment in the chat today. Thank you for being here, Matt, by the way. Once again, he said that when people go to New Orleans, sometimes they don't come back the same person. They don't come back the same. I think that's kind of how he worded it. And something dark can take over people there. Is that just the energy there? Or do you think that maybe people can put under a spell from just being in a place like that?
Well, if you know an area has a lot of dark energy about it, you need to keep your vibrations high. You need to keep your positive vibrational aspect high because this creates a bumper and doesn't allow this darker spiritual energy into your being. You need to do that. If you know you're going to an area like that, you need to be on guard and you need to prepare yourself for it. This is like I've told so many investigators and field investigators over the years. And Jessica, you and I have both done a lot of field research. You protect yourself going into the city. I don't care if you're hunting Bigfoot or if you're looking for chupacabra, whatever the situation is. You go into that protected and you come out of it protected. That's the way you do it, and that's the first thing you do. I have gone to many places like that before I got out of my automobile. I would do that prayer of protection over that. I would get myself prepared and protected before I even set foot on that place. And that's what you got to understand. If you go into an area that's like New Orleans, like the Bayou country, and you know that there's a lot of dark energy, you need to keep that vibration high.
Yes, 100%. That's what Jane was saying. Keep your vibrations high. And so that's why I'm always encouraging everybody, keep your vibrations high. Don't live in fear, okay? Because it's the fear that will suck you dry there, okay? And drain all your energy of you. And we don't want parasites to be able to live off of us, okay? And so put up your protection. Just like Dennis and I are both wearing protection amulets today that have been blessed, okay? And of course we also have energetic protection as well. Prayer is a big one, and meditation as well. And so you guys, please protect your energy because we are surrounded by parasites. Okay, a lot of parasitic stuff in society and just in media and everything.
We need to remember that fear is the weapon, the number one weapon that darkness likes to use against us. Okay, and that's why you say it so much, and I do too. You don't want to live in fear. You want to keep the fear down. Matter of fact, you want to keep the fear completely out if you can, because the fear destroys your faith. Fear is the enemy of faith. And that's what keeps your vibrations high. That's what keeps you in that positive mode. But don't let something in that destroys that faith. Okay. And fear is what does that. And that's why darkness uses fear as such a weapon because it's effective. Don't let it be effective on you. You can keep that fear back with faith and positive outlooks.
Yes, positivity. It's hard to be positive sometimes right now, though, isn't it, Dennis? I mean, to me, it's not. I try to always look on the sunny side, but I see the state of the world. It's just like I'm just happy that things are being uncovered and exposed. And I mean, this is what I came here for. I love this. I'm so glad, but it can be very depressing for people who have been living in their own reality and haven't known the truth for a long time. And everybody's realities are getting rocked right now. Of course, Jeff says keep your 10 millimeter close. Absolutely, Jeff. You know me.
I used to tell my members, the positive outlook thing is like keeping your flashlight on in the dark. Don't ever turn your flashlight off.
Yeah. Yeah, don't always keep your light shining. Always keep it on. And fear is the opposite of love. So just love yourselves. That's where we start right there, y'all. That's the base. Love yourself. Do everything you can to make sure you are loving on yourself. And so through you loving yourself, you're going to become love so you can love others. Okay.
You can't love others if you don't love yourself. You got to
That
first
is
love
right.
yourself, then you can love others.
That is right. And yeah, y'all stay prayed up, everybody, and put on that full armor of God. Okay. In the mornings when you get up, when you go to bed at night, because yeah, the stuff can't get to you and hurt you when you're protected. Okay. And you take care of yourself and you love. I mean, I'm not saying you can't get hurt. I'm not saying you're immortal and indestructible or unkillable as what is that, Deadpool? I'm not
Yeah.
saying it's like that, but you know, things will bounce off of you when you love yourself and you are in a high vibration. And so that's what we need to strive to be, each and every one of y'all. And I know y'all are. Okay. And if you need a little boost, y'all come over to the Cryptid Hunters channel, and we will brighten your day as much as we can. And also Hunting the Shadows over there on YouTube. That's a wonderful chat over there too, Dennis. You have a wonderful show over there. But you know, I like to bring awareness to all the stuff that's going on around us, and to the encounters that even go back to the 1800s and beyond, because it has so much relevance today with the things that we're experiencing out there. I had never heard of the Grunch. I'd heard of the Grinch, but the Grunch was something new to me, and the fact that it is so prevalent in New Orleans and around the Bayou, I figured we need to talk about it today. And Dennis, you're the perfect person to bring on today. Thank you so much for being here. This has been a fantastic discussion once again, and talking about Marie Laveau as well. I want to, you know, I think that she made a very positive impact in a lot of lives, and so we want to, you know, give her the credit for that, because you hear the term Voodoo Queen and it can be scary, but I'm sure she did a lot of good.
People out of some sticky situations, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
She was somebody you would really want to be your friend and not your enemy. Absolutely.
Right. Exactly. Yes, I would want her on my side. I'd want her on my team for sure. Matter of fact, I did mention I did dress up like her for Halloween twice in my adult life, and I just didn't realize I was dressing up like her, I guess. But now I know I was channeling Marie Laveau, and I think I think it's really interesting.
I
like.
think you would make a good voodoo queen there.
Oh, thank you. I did. I was pretty authentic with it too. It was great. And who knows? I think I was channeling Marie Laveau both of those times. And I just love it. I don't know. I really like to bring awareness to this because this is people are able to do magic and to change our realities, change your realities and things. And so let's take that knowledge and let's use it for the betterment of humanity, you know, in the knowledge. Let's take this knowledge that we have today and use it for the betterment of humanity, and not to the detriment. Okay, so I don't know. Do you have any final thoughts on this today, Dennis? I've just really enjoyed the show today with you.
Well, I think we need to take a lesson from Marie Laveau. Let's not create our own monsters, okay? Because they might turn on us and they might come after us. Let's be careful about that. We need to stay away from the darkness, and like Jessica says, we need to embrace the light more. And then we have a better life that way, okay? No matter which way you look at it, you're definitely going to have a more productive and a happier life when you stay on the positive and the bright side of these things. We need to stay away from that darkness as much as possible. And I think the lesson is there that, we have to be very careful with our decisions and things that we let into our life because they can be very detrimental if we're not careful. Absolutely.
Yes. Don't live in fear. I mean, I need to get a t-shirt that says that. No fear. No fear.
Yeah. I think it's like I mentioned this the other night. Do not fear. I think it's like in the Bible, 365 something times or something like that. Once for every day of the year or something like that. That's interesting to think about. Do not fear. Do not fear. It's telling us that we got to watch out about that fear. Fear can twist us in all the wrong ways, and that's why we need to be very careful about it, how we deal with it, and keep it out of our lives as much as possible.
Yes, never fear. The cryptid huntress is here. Oh man, yes. Well, this is wonderful, Dennis. Thank you so much for being here today. I know you have a show tonight, and would you love to tell the audience? Or I'd love for you to tell the audience about your YouTube channel, your Patreon, your channel memberships, whatever you got going on. And what do you have? What's your show tonight?
Also, I'm a proud member of the Hunt Club too, by the way.
Thank you,
Anyway,
Dennis.
and it's great. I love it. Anyway,
Thank you.
tonight on the road less traveled, if you want to journey with my good friend Gerald Fountain and I, we're going to be talking about lost civilizations. We're going to be talking about Lemuria, Atlantis, maybe even some off-planet places. So you might want to check us out. That's at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Hunting the Shadows YouTube podcast channel. And then Wednesday night, I'm going to have a couple of interesting guests on Hunting the Shadows. You might want to tune in for that. I'm going to have Mr. DDoS and the Red Pill Preacher as a couple of my guests on Hunting the Shadows. And that will be 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time as well. And then Paranormal Point of View Friday night. I'm going to get Jessica on there one night on Paranormal Point of View. And that's at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time as well. Also, yes, I do have a Patreon, and if you want to contribute to that, I also have membership open also on the YouTube channel, and you can find my books. And I think I have 4 or 5 books out on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. Just look up Dennis W. Carroll, and if you need to consult me, I have a paranormal consultant service. If you have any kind of paranormal problem or whatever it may be, you may contact me at denniswcarroll.com. And all my services are free.
Whoa. That is a fantastic service, Dennis. Thank you so much for all you do for us here at my channel and everything you do for me. You're such a great friend. And thank you for always being there for me. I really appreciate you. And for coming and
I hope I'll always be here.
yes, I know, right? Well, you are immortal. You are maybe my resident werewolf.
Werewolves never die.
Werewolves never die. Oh my gosh. Well, we do have fun over here. We do for sure. And I can't wait to see your show tonight. I will be in your chat room, as I always try to at least swing by. And now that Ben's out of school this week, I might could spend a little more time in there tonight. So thank you, Dennis. It's awesome that you are here.
Enjoy dropping in.
Thank you. Well, you're the perfect person for the job today. So it worked out great. And I want to thank everybody for being here today. You guys are the best. I have the best, one of the best chats. Okay, I know Dennis has got a great chat too. We got one of the best chats on the internet for sure. And I wanted to thank Skip, Kent, and Larry for all your support today with the super stickers and the membership gifting. That is very sweet of you guys. It really does make my day. I appreciate y'all so much. And y'all come back and see me on Wednesday. I will be back on a glitch in the matrix. And it's going to be another fantastic show as always. But until then, you guys, please stay safe out there. Keep your head on a swivel. And don't live in fear. Everybody have a wonderful day. And watch out for the Grunch. Watch out for the Grunch. If you go into the bayou, if you go to New Orleans, don't be roaming around the swamp late at night, and protect your neck if you go out to the bars late at night. Matthew Delph will tell you that you might get bitten by a vampire and become immortal. And if you do, come on my show. We'll talk about it. Okay. All right, Dennis, have a great day. I will see you guys on Wednesday. All right. Bye, everybody.